The Chiefs got their answer in the snow, and it is the Cincinnati Bengals coming to Arrowhead for the AFC Championship game. We're going to break down this matchup tonight. Now that it's here, welcome to Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. It is a late release for us tonight as we waited for the final games to come through. The last games are set. 2 championships. The important one for the Chiefs fans, AFC Championship, is going to be the Cincinnati Bengals coming back. What does that mean for this team? A lot to go over here. Thanks for making us your first listen. Check out the Bengals show or the draft show or the Locked On NFL show for your next listen, because they're all free all the time, everywhere you can get them here on the Locked On NFL network. A lot to say today as well on NFL 33, RGR Football, Rogue Analytics. We have it all, and that's where you can find all of my work.
Lots to talk about. This is going to be a big game. Kansas City is taking on the Bengals for the 4th time in, a little over a year. And they are 0-3 against these Bengals right now. So lots to talk about. And we do have a little bit of an update on Mahomes.
Yeah, and that's really what's important here. First off, folks, we are brought to you today by PrizePicks. It's the easiest way to play daily fantasy sports, and you can get your bonus on your deposit by using our code LOCKEDON at PrizePicks.com. MRI update. Looks like the results came back clean, and that's always a nice thing. It changes the scope a little bit of what I think is going to happen this week. And the quarterbacks are going to be at the top of the marquee for this ball game, no matter what, injury or not. But what do you think the injury does for this matchup in terms of the preparation this week?
I'd be surprised if he practices a lot. That's going to be something I'm going to be watching. But really, and I put this out on Twitter earlier today, I wonder how this changes what Cincinnati's defense is going to try to do with Mahomes. Because generally speaking, they've been rushing 3, dropping 8 at times, and that's really frustrated Mahomes. I'm not so sure they do that this time around.
I think that it could be a possibility that they decide to bring more pressure, knowing that he is a more stationary target than they've seen out of him before. I think you saw that from the Jaguars. It didn't end up really helping them that much because Patrick is Patrick. And despite the injury, I think the fact that he was able to play the second half on that ankle and the way that he was able to play is still enough to make me feel like even if they do that, I think that opens up more opportunity for Patrick than it helps them defend him.
Yeah, and the other thing that I'm going to find really interesting is I don't think the Bengals are going to have to spy Patrick like they normally might. That's one thing that is going to change how many people they can put in coverage. If you're not having to spy him and you send 4, you can still drop 7. That's still pretty good odds.
Yeah, it works out in terms of the math, but anytime that I have started to feel like Patrick Mahomes is not ready to do X, or he's underprepared, or he's not 100% physically, he ends up doing these miraculous things. So the question becomes for me, we saw the gravity of the injury live in the ball game. He fought his way through the training staff, etc. Ran off the field to go get his X-ray, came back, and obviously fought through all that. That's just a taste. That's just the instant reaction to playing a Jags team that you've beaten before. I don't think there's any way that when we're talking about, like you said, a 4th time in a little over a calendar year to meet this team and having not beaten them yet, that there's any way he isn't fully prepared for this. Can he be 100% on that ankle? I don't think so. But I do think that it's enough that it's a noticeable upgrade from what we saw in the second half of this last ball game against the Jaguars. Am I crazy?
I don't know about crazy. I think you're awfully optimistic. I think that he's going to be playing. I just don't know how well he's going to be moving. Bobby Stroop is going to have a very busy week this week trying to help Patrick. Rick Burkholder is going to have a very busy week this week trying to help Patrick. And I will say this, and there's a lot to talk about when it gets to this game. I'm just going to say, if they can have McCole Hardman, that really is going to help this offense out. If they can have CEH, that's going to help this offense out. And I know people will say it's not, but he's going to give you another option out of the backfield that's really going to help.
And that's really what it comes to, I think, is giving Patrick the weapons that he can do whatever he needs to do. And I do think that ends up drifting towards the quick game. towards the pitch game in the run, towards trying to get it in the hands of the other skill players and let them earn the yards after the catch or after the handoff or whatever it happens to be. And I agree with you. CH has been out for quite a long time. If they get him back, it gives them a third legitimate run threat that you can pepper in. And if they decide that the best way to protect Patrick is to run more, it gives you more options. It gives you attrition proof in the backfield so that if somebody does get hurt, you're okay.
I was just gonna say, and it's not just three running backs, it's two guys out of the backfield that can catch the ball very well.
Yeah.
That's the other big thing. And I think that could play a huge part in this game.
Yeah, and that's a totally legit threat. And we'll see about Hardman. I hope that he can make it back. I think they did a very specific thing in not going back to IR with him so that he could be available. That's the way that it works sometimes when you're on the edge of an injury like this. But we need to get into the history and the matchup itself, what has worked and hasn't worked for them in the past. We're going to do that after this word from our newest sponsors. It is the NFL playoffs. We are right here at the culmination of the AFC run, and we're really excited about our newest partner. They are in the sports betting world because Locked On is now with the number one sports book in America, FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better because they have so many great features to make betting fun and easy for all the sports that you're interested in. New customers join today and you can get started with $150 in free bets, guaranteed. When you place your first $5 bet, it's just that easy. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/lockedon. You can see it below here. FanDuel has all your favorite bets from money line to point spreads to player props. Plus, you can even combine those bets and get a chance to win a bigger payout with a same game parlay. So that could be Patrick and X number of yards. It could be the win. It could be points in the X quarter. There's all kinds of combinations. Check all of those out. All on the app, and it's all safe, secure, and super easy to use. So football fans, don't miss out. Place your $5 bet to get $150 in free bets, win or lose, at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Every moment, make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Now, if I was going to bet, I'm gonna pretend that weather isn't an issue. If I was going to bet, I do think it is going to turn into a game where both running backs or running games at least get more attention, get more success. I think the Chiefs do need to go out of their way to tick up the run game a little bit to protect Patrick's ankle. And I do think for the Bengals, they want to run Joe Mixon more. I don't think it was I don't remember how many yards he had in their first meeting, but it wasn't a significant amount that makes me nervous about that. What do you think about the run game coming at the Kansas City Chiefs, particularly Mixon?
I think it's a big storyline in how this game's going to go. And quite honestly, I know we're talking running game, but the bigger question I have is what's the weather going to be like? I know you're trying to take the weather out of it, but that's really going to matter when you start talking about offensive line versus defensive line and pass rush and being able to stop running backs as well and being able to fire off the ball. If it's snowy like it's supposed to be right now, that running game is going to be even more hard to stop because you're going to not have the best footing, and that's going to be a problem.
Yeah. I hope that the weather plays into the Chiefs' favor. Man, we haven't even gotten to this point. We probably should have gone here first. Chiefs are playing this game at home. Despite everything that happened with DeMar Hamlin, despite having the possibility of a neutral game, and for all of you Atlanta Falcons fans, I'm sorry you bought those tickets for a game that ain't going to happen, but the Chiefs get to play the Bengals at home again. This time of year, do you think the weather actually helps them? Or do you think that they want it to be clean and fast and no precip, et cetera, et cetera?
I don't think it helps them because it's going to make it harder to rush the passer in. Quite honestly, if you watched the game against Cincinnati, Buffalo never really got pressure on Burrow. He wasn't pressured much of the game. Kansas City has the second most sacks in the NFL. They have the ability to get pressure. Cincinnati is likely going to be without three offensive starters on that offensive line. If the weather is good, they're going to have good footing. But the other thing that I think will play into Kansas City's favor, they know the field. It's grass. I think that's going to play in Kansas City's favor.
Yeah, I have to hope so. I do think that it is going to be important for the D-line in particular to be able to get off the ball. I think that helps the Chiefs more than it hurts them even going with Patrick and being less mobile. I think the key here is for a team that has come on in batting passes this year, Joe Burrow is the quarterback that's thrown an absolute ton of them. I do believe he is second in the league in bad passes. That plays into what can you do. I hope Steve Spagnuolo mixes in some 3-man pressure. We saw that against the Jags. Not his normal thing, but it's enough of a difference that you can spy, you can green dog, you can run all kinds of concepts where if you really do need to get a fourth rusher, you can, but it makes Joe Burrow think. I like that concept. Then you can switch it up. I think you need to go to some condensed fronts, to tell you the truth. I think you need to attack and find ways that you can do systemically to get Chris Jones one-on-one, especially if he can go into the A-gap. Take a guard on the inside. I think that's the way that you speed Joe Burrow up, you speed delivery up, and you speed the opportunity to take the ball away up.
Yeah, I think that's going to be key. And the big question I have is going to actually come on the back end of the defense. Can the secondary hold up and keep the receivers from getting open for 2 seconds? If they can make Burrow hold the ball, that's huge. If he is not holding the ball for more than 2 seconds, the pass rush really isn't going to make a difference in this game. So the secondary has to hold up. We're going to find out how big a leap these rookies have really taken since they last played Cincinnati just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and I think that's really key. Like, it's hard for me to call them rookies any longer because there were 18 games into their first campaign. At this point, they've outplayed the rest of their rookie class. They're going to continue to outplay the rest of their rookie class for the other 3 teams they're going to play in the championship games. That said, they had more downs than they had ups the first time that this team played. Joshua Williams played a lot. He got targeted a lot the first time around. Jalen Watson just had another interception last week and has been playing over Joshua Williams of late. Snead, obviously, McDuffie now being able to trade off in the slot. I think that helps. And I think this is going to be, for Brett Veach, the confirmation of the plan that he put together with Steve Spagnuolo to make sure, even though you spent a draft pick in the first round, but you went back and you got the long, tall, physical corners that are the type that can take on this crew and actually win. Facing them a month ago maybe wasn't an easy thing, but how is it now?
Well, and I'm glad you say physical, because that is going to be a huge key in this game. And the reason I say that is because if you watch playoff football, defensive pass interference has been called, but it is way down from the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
They're letting them play, and that is going to be huge for this secondary because these secondary players like to get their hands on the receivers, and that is something that can really throw off that passing game.
Yeah, I completely agree. At the end of the day, this is what these guys were brought in here for. It's still early in their career, but it's not like it was, I think it was December 4th that they met. And Chase had 97 yards on 7 receptions. Boyd had 60 yards on, 4 receptions. You got Higgins in there. He did get that score. I think this is an opportunity to take what you've learned in the last 8 weeks, put it to use, particularly against this team, and really dial up what these rookies are doing. We're going to talk about the other circumstances they have to guard against in order to make this game a success on the backside of this message. That is from our friends over at PrizePicks. This is the easiest way to play daily fantasy sports, and it's the thing that I like the most. Right now, the line for Patrick Mahomes is going to be at 265.5. All you have to do is go to prizepicks.com or get their app in any app store. It is PrizePicks in the app stores. Pick, are they going to go more or less on that line? You can do the same thing for Joe Brewer if you want. You can do the same thing for Joe Mixon if you want. You put 2 to 5 of those entries together. That entry can win you 10 times your betting amount. Daily fantasy sports from PrizePicks is the way to go. And it makes it fun and easy. It's unique. And right now, using our code LOCKEDON, you get a 100% deposit bonus. So if you put $10 in, you get $10 more. If you put 50 in, you put 100 in, up to $100, you get that much back to continue to make plays. That's what it's about. So check them out. You can find it anywhere in any app store or specifically at prizepicks.com. I think the thing that we have to remember about ups and downs about this rivalry that has been going on now for a couple of times is that it's always tight. It was a 3-point game just was it 6-8 weeks ago. There was one key thing that I always come back to, that in a tight, less than 7-point game, you have to control. And I think it's one thing that if they take that away, if Travis Kelce doesn't have that ball ripped out by Pratt for the one turnover of the game, Chiefs win that. If they can play clean football and not have any turnovers, they're plus in the playoffs so far in taking the ball away. That is the key, number one thing that they have to do to win this ball game.
It's huge. And you're right. I think if Kansas City, if Travis Kelce holds onto that ball, they win the game. And I don't know, it may not have been a closer game because that gave the Bengals momentum and it completely shifted how that game ended up. So, I think that this game is going to be a little bit different than what they've been doing in the past. I'm really curious to see what the Bengals defense does. But offensively, Kansas City knows that the Bengals are going to throw a bunch of different things at them. They have to be ready for everything. I don't know what Lou is coming up with on the Bengals defensive side of the ball. I'm sorry. But that's going to be a big question as to how this offense is going to really attack that defense. They're going to have to spread them out. They need to make sure that Cincinnati is covering every single blade of grass. Mahomes can do that, especially in the pocket, and that's what's so huge.
Mm-hmm. It comes down to the Orlando Brown contest. We're going to talk about pass rush this week. Henderson had a big play here a week ago, not against the Bills, but the opening wildcard round. A guy that's gotten Orlando's goat a little bit in this series. This is a team that outside of that, you have to hope that the Chiefs can hold up protection-wise. They did a great job in the second half protecting a much less mobile Patrick Mahomes. Can they do that again against this particular team? If they do, and they have Tony and they have Sky Moore and they have all their weapons, we'll see if McColl can play or not. I think that gives them a boost over the last contest that they had that, again, if it isn't for the mistake, they probably win that one. So a lot of folks are going to take the Bengals right out the gate. I think the NFL world wants the Bengals to win when you take fans across the whole spectrum. But I do
They're tired of Kansas City.
Yeah, it's becoming the new boogeyman. Baba Yaga's real. Thank you, Therese. We miss you. I think that's the way that it comes down. And as long as they can play clean and keep Patrick clean, they will win this ball game finally and take that monkey off their back.
I wonder if Patrick being less mobile helps the tackles.
Maybe.
Think about it. If he's not dropping deeper than he normally would, or dropping deeper, and he's having to step up into the pocket versus trying to maybe bounce outside, is that going to help the tackles? Because they have that arc that they are trying to get their guy around. I wonder if that's going to help Brown. I wonder if that's going to help Wiley. We'll see. I'm really curious just to see what Andy Reid dials up when it comes to pressure, or when it comes to protecting Patrick, because there's other things that they can do as well. Travis Kelce can chip. Noah Gray can chip. We know McKinnon can block.
Yep.
CEH can stand in there and do it. Pacheco, you don't want to put him in that position, but I'm sure at some point in this playoffs, if they make it to the Super Bowl in the next 2 games, Pacheco is going to end up in pass protection at some point. We would have to hope that he holds up, but the other part of it is what kind of running game are they going to have in this game? The offensive line needs to know that they've got to come and they need to show up ready to play, and they need to be ready to just run over the Bengals. Because if they're able to run the ball 40% of the time and get 5 or 6 yards per carry, that's going to change everything.
Yeah. Quick strike becomes less rampant and less dependable. I'd like to see the Chiefs add some run back in to protect Patrick as well.
And for the love of everything, please try a jet sweep if you're going to try something on 3rd and 1. I don't get it. I don't get it. I saw it happen in the Cowboys game. I'm like, Andy, I hope you're watching, because do that instead of what you're trying to do. I get that you like that little, tight end sneak, but teams know it's coming now.
Actually, I think they need to run that with jet motion once he gets set. And I think that counter pitch to Tony is just setting the table to have a variation run off of it this week. So I'll try to break that down this week on RGR, folks.
I'm sure they're going to have.
that one.
Yeah, I'm sure they're going to have a slew of things ready for Cincinnati in this game.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. We'd like to know what you think. What's the most important key to this game? We're going to go through it all. We're going to break down the defensive side tomorrow, as well as any key developments as we get news on the player situation. We're going to have Matt Derrick back on Wednesday. Then we get with the Bengals guys on Thursday. I think you guys are going to dig that this time around. Then we will preview every aspect of this ball game for Friday and give you live reaction after the game. Lot coming this week. Hope you guys are ready for it. Make sure you like, sub, and hit the bell here. Check out Locked On NFL. The feed has everything for you, including our new game-to-game highlights that really pit every game, two sides back and forth together. Check them out. Thanks for spending your time with us today, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.